He returned from his trip and found his daughter trembling in bed, her hair cut off by force. Faced with reports of abuse, humiliation, and fear, something inside him awakened urgently. While the stepmother tried to manipulate the story, he gathered evidence, allies, and courage to act. And so began a silent battle where protecting childhood would become his greatest mission. A private jet landed at LaGuardia Airport shortly after midnight. Raphael Morrison, 42, a tech entrepreneur and founder of RM Tech, one of the fastest-growing American startups by market value, disembarked exhausted. The 3-week trip through Asia to close business deals had been productive, but every minute away from Sophia, his 7-year-old daughter, weighed like hours. His private chauffeur was already waiting for him on the tarmac. "Good evening. Mr. Morrison, welcome back to New York City." "Thanks, Julian. Straight home, please. I'm eager to see Sophia, even if she's already asleep." As the luxury car cut through the almost empty avenues of the early New York morning, Raphael checked his phone messages. Vanessa Alcott, his wife of 2 years, had only sent occasional photos of Sophia during the trip. "Everything under control," read the last message from 3 days ago. Raphael felt a tightening in his chest. Since he married Vanessa, a digital influencer and socialite, the family dynamic had subtly changed. The mansion on the Upper East Side was silent when he arrived. Raphael dismissed Julian and entered, noticing that only the exterior lights were on. He went straight up to Sophia's room, wanting to give her a goodnight kiss even if she was sleeping. As he gently opened the door, Raphael's heart froze. In the dim light of the unicorn-shaped nightlight, he saw his daughter huddled in bed, trembling slightly. And her hair, her long brown curls, which Sophia loved so much and he helped comb on Sunday mornings, were gone. The girl's head was irregularly shaved, as if done in haste and without care. "Sophia," he called softly, approaching the bed. The girl turned, startled, her eyes swollen from crying, shining in the dark. Upon recognizing her father, her face lit up for an instant before she broke down in silent tears. "Daddy," she whispered, throwing herself into his arms. "You're back." Raphael hugged his daughter, feeling her small body tremble. "What happened to your hair, Princess?" Sophia buried her face in her father's chest. "Aunt Vanessa said I didn't know how to take care of it properly, and that it was always tangled. She said it was discipline." "Discipline?" Raphael felt his throat tighten. "She got mad because I couldn't comb it by myself, and because I cried when she threw Mr. Caramel in the trash." Mr. Caramel was the teddy bear Sophia had since she was a baby, a gift from her biological mother before her passing, when Sophia was only 2 years old. "Where is Mr. Caramel now?" "I don't know." Tears streamed down the girl's face. "Aunt Vanessa said teddy bears are for crybabies, and that I needed to grow up." Raphael sat on the bed, holding Sophia in his arms, trying to control his rising fury. "Is there anything else you want to tell me, Princess?" Sophia hesitated, looking at the door as if fearing someone might enter. "She said I couldn't tell you, that you would be mad at me, that you wouldn't want to be with me anymore." "Sophia, look at me." Raphael gently held his daughter's face. "I would never ever be mad at you for telling me the truth. And nothing in the world could make me not want to be with you. You are the most important thing in my life." The girl sniffled, calmer. "She yells at me when you travel, says I'm annoying, leaves me without dinner when I make noise." Sophia spoke softly. "And she locks me in my room when her friends come over. Says children shouldn't be seen." Each word was like a stab to Raphael's chest. How had he not noticed before? The small changes in Sophia's behavior, the way she became quiet when Vanessa was around, how she had stopped singing around the house. "And Mrs. Clara?" Raphael asked, referring to the nanny who had cared for Sophia for years. "Aunt Vanessa sent her away, said she was a gossip and was spoiling me too much." Raphael closed his eyes for a moment. Mrs. Clara, whom Sophia adored, and who had always been a loving presence in the girl's life since her mother's death, dismissed without his consultation or knowledge. "How long has this been happening, Sophia?" Since the big trip. When you were away for a long time." The big trip had been 3 months earlier, when Raphael spent 2 weeks in Europe. "Why didn't you tell me on the phone, Princess?" "She listens in. She said if I told she would send me to a boarding school far away." Sophia tightened her hug. I don't want to leave, Daddy. You're not going anywhere, my love. I promise. Raphael settled his daughter in bed, lying beside her. I'll stay here with you tonight, okay? Tomorrow we'll sort this out. Sophia snuggled against her father, exhaustion finally overcoming fear. In a few minutes she fell asleep, her face still marked by tears. Raphael, however, remained awake, his body tense with anger and guilt. How had he not seen the signs? Vanessa, whom he had met at a charity event, and who seemed so concerned with social causes, so affectionate with Sophia at the beginning of their relationship. Had it all been an act? Or had something changed? Picking up his phone, he went to his call history. He had called home almost every day during the trip, always asking to speak with Sophia. On some occasions, Vanessa said she was already asleep. On others, that she was at ballet class or playing at a friend's house. He also checked the app for the private school Sophia attended, the Garden Academy. There had been 3 absences in the last week, justified as health problems. But Sophia seemed physically well, despite the evident emotional distress. Silently, so as not to wake his daughter, Raphael got up and went to the bedroom closet. Rummaging through drawers and boxes, he looked for Mr. Caramel but couldn't find him. However, he found something that made his stomach churn. Hidden at the bottom of a toy box, a small notebook with Sophia's drawings. Page after page showed figures of a sad, lonely girl, sometimes inside what looked like a box or darkroom. In one drawing, an adult figure with long blonde hair, Vanessa, stood, much larger than the girl, with an angry expression and what looked like lightning bolts coming out of her mouth. Raphael put the notebook in his pocket and returned to bed, hugging Sophia protectively. His strategist's brain was already working, calculating the next steps. He wouldn't confront Vanessa immediately. He needed more information, evidence, a plan. He picked up his phone again and, after hesitating for a few seconds, dialed a number. Mr. Maxwell. I know it's late, I apologize. This is Raphael Morrison, yes. No, it's not about company contracts. It's a personal and urgent matter. We need to meet first thing tomorrow morning. It's about my daughter. The lawyer on the other end of the line must have noticed something in Raphael's voice, as he immediately agreed to meet him at 7 a.m. at his office, before normal business hours. Next, Raphael sent a message to his secretary. Clarissa, cancel all my appointments for the next few days. Family emergency. I'll contact you tomorrow with more details. Finally, he did a quick search and found the number for the nearest Child Protective Services office. He wrote it down to call as soon as it opened in the morning. He would need professional guidance to handle the situation without causing further trauma to Sophia. Lying beside his daughter, he saw the first lights of morning begin to illuminate the room. He hadn't slept a minute but felt more alert than ever. An iron determination grew within him. He would protect his daughter at all costs, and Vanessa would have to answer for everything she had done. Raphael gently kissed Sophia's shaved head, feeling a tear run down his own face. I'm here now, he whispered, and I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Raphael left Sophia's room before the sun fully rose. Vanessa was still asleep in the master bedroom. He had checked silently, maintaining a calculated distance. Nancy, the housekeeper, would only arrive at 8 a.m., which gave him time to act discreetly. In the downstairs office, Raphael connected to the house's security system. As the founder of a tech company, he had installed an advanced system when they moved into the mansion. He checked access logs for the past few months, especially during his travels. The logs were revealing frequent visits by Vanessa to Sophia's room at unusual hours, especially in the early morning. Even more intriguing, there were records of a person identified as Clara Oliver, the former nanny, attempting to visit the house several times in recent weeks, being barred at the gate by express orders from Ms. Alcott. Quickly, Raphael extracted videos from the security cameras in the common area and saved them to an external device. There were no cameras in the bedrooms for privacy reasons, but what he had was enough to establish suspicious patterns. At 6:30 a.m., he called a taxi through an app. He didn't want Julian, his chauffeur, to know where he was going so early. He left a note on the refrigerator. Left early to resolve pending matters from the trip. When Sophia wakes up, tell her I'll be back soon. Do not leave her alone with Vanessa. The law firm Maxwell and Associates occupied 3 floors of a commercial building on Wall Street. Specializing in corporate and family law, Theodore Maxwell had represented Raphael in several RM Tech contracts, but never in personal matters. "Raphael, good morning, Theodore." A black man in his 40s greeted him at the door. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't, Theodore." Raphael entered the office and waited for the door to close. "I need your absolute discretion in what I'm about to share." Over the next hour, Raphael recounted everything he had discovered: Sophia's shaved head, the confessions of mistreatment, the dismissal of the trusted nanny, the unjustified school absences, the disturbing drawings, and the suspicious security logs. Theodore listened intently, making occasional notes. When Raphael finished, the lawyer took a deep breath. "We'll need more evidence, Raphael. Vanessa has a very strong public image as a children's advocate. 7-year-old's word against hers won't be enough in court, unfortunately." "What kind of evidence?" "Testimonies kegged from the former nanny, teachers, neighbors, Sophia's psychological reports, documentation of behavioral changes, and, if possible, direct evidence of mistreatment." Raphael nodded, already anticipating these points. "Another thing," Theodore continued, "we need to act strategically. Vanessa is a public figure with over 5 million followers. If she realizes what's happening, she could turn this into a social media narrative war before we even get to court." "What do you suggest?" "Don't confront her directly. Tell her you need to stay home longer to recover from jet lag and spend time with Sophia. Maintain appearances while we gather evidence. And we need to find that nanny, Clara, immediately." Raphael ran his hands over his tired face. "I'll hire a private investigator. I also need to know more about Vanessa's past." Theodore hesitated. "Raphael, are you prepared for what you might discover? Vanessa might have a history you're unaware of." "I'm prepared for anything that protects Sophia." When he left the office, Raphael made 2 calls. The first was to Clarissa, his secretary. "Clarissa, I need you to find the best private investigator in New York City. Someone discreet, efficient, and not afraid of influential people. It's for an extremely delicate personal matter." The second call was to Clara Oliver's number, which he still had in his contacts. "Hello?" The voice on the other end sounded cautious. "Mrs. Clara, this is Raphael Morrison." There was an audible sigh of relief. "Thank goodness you called, Mr. Morrison. I tried to reach you so many times." "I know. I just found out. We need to talk in person today." "Yes, sir. I have a lot to tell you." They arranged to meet at a discreet coffee shop in Soho, away from both the mansion and Raphael's office. Meanwhile, Vanessa woke up and found the note on the refrigerator. Frowning, she typed a message to Raphael. "Not even a good morning kiss after weeks away? I expected more affection from my husband." She attached a selfie with a disappointed expression, the kind of content she usually posted for her followers with captions about real relationships. Raphael ignored the message, focused on his next step. Before returning home, he needed to ensure Sophia was safe. He called the Garden Academy and spoke directly with the pedagogical coordinator, Martha Vaughan. "Martha, this is Raphael Morrison, Sophia's father. I'm back from my trip and noticed some recent absences from school." "Yes, Mr. Morrison. Your wife informed us that Sophia had a persistent cold." "I see. And how has Sophia's behavior been in recent weeks? Have you noticed any changes?" There was a slight hesitation. "Sophia has been quieter, yes. Our teachers reported that she stopped participating in group activities and has been isolating herself during breaks." "Did anyone from the school try to contact me about this?" Another silence. "We tried to speak with Ms. Alcott. She said it was just a phase and that Sophia was processing her father's absence. She assured us everything was under control." Raphael clenched his phone tightly. "Martha, from now on, any communication regarding Sophia must be directly with me in the first instance. And I need a meeting with you and her teacher as soon as possible." At 11 a.m., Raphael met Mrs. Clara at the agreed-upon cafe. The 60-year-old woman, who had cared for Sophia since she was a baby, seemed to have aged years since he last saw her. "Mr. Morrison," she held his hands tightly, "I tried to warn you. As soon as the lady sent me away, I felt something was wrong. The way she spoke to the girl when you weren't there. The small punishments, the food she withheld. Why couldn't you reach me, Clara? She blocked my number on your phone. I tried to go to the company, but security wouldn't let me up. I tried to go to the house, but there were orders not to let me in. Clara wiped a tear. On my last day, Sophia hugged me so tight. She whispered that she was scared. Raphael felt a tightening in his chest. What else did you see, Clara? The girl was losing weight. She was always thin, but she was losing weight. The lady would lock Sophia in her room when she had her influencer friends over. Once I found the girl hidden in the closet, trembling. She said Aunt Vanessa was less angry when she made herself invisible. Every detail was like a dagger. Raphael took meticulous notes. There was a day, Clara continued, hesitant, when I found Miss Alcott going through your things in the office. She was photographing documents. When she saw me, she said she was organizing family business. 2 days later, I was dismissed. Raphael raised his eyebrows. What kind of documents? Contracts, I think. Papers with your company's letterhead. Before saying goodbye, Raphael ensured Clara would be available to testify if necessary, and arranged for her to return to work for the family, this time directly hired by him through the company, as a family well-being consultant. In the afternoon, Raphael finally returned home. He found Sophia in the garden, drawing alone under the distant supervision of Nancy, the housekeeper. "Daddy!" The girl ran to him, her eyes shining. Raphael hugged her tightly, lifting her off the ground. "Hi, Princess. I missed you today. You're not going away again, are you?" she asked, clinging to his neck. "Not any time soon." "I promise." He put her down and observed the drawing she was making. It was a figure that looked like himself, very large, protecting a small figure, Sophia, from a dark shadow. "Beautiful drawing." Sophia smiled shyly. "It's you protecting me from the nightmare monster." Raphael felt his throat tighten. "I'll always protect you, Sophia. Always." At that moment, Vanessa appeared at the garden door, impeccably dressed and made up, as if ready for a photo shoot at any instant. "Finally home, love." She approached with a radiant smile, the same one she displayed in her posts about perfect family. "We missed you so much, didn't we, Sophia?" Raphael noticed how his daughter immediately flinched, her smile disappearing. But instead of confronting Vanessa, he remembered Theodore's strategy: maintain appearances while gathering evidence. "I missed you too," he replied with a calculated smile, as he protectively placed Sophia behind him. "Shall we go inside? I want to hear everything that happened while I was away." Vanessa kissed him on the cheek for the invisible cameras of an imaginary audience. "I have so much to tell you, darling, especially about a new children's charity project I'm planning. It will be perfect for the Morrison family image." Raphael nodded, smiling while keeping a firm hand on Sophia's shoulder. Behind his friendly gaze, a determination grew. Vanessa had no idea of the storm silently brewing around her. Protecting Sophia was not just a promise, but a mission from which he would not deviate until he saw his daughter completely safe and happy again. 2 weeks passed since Raphael's return. On the surface, the mansion on the Upper East Side maintained the facade of family harmony. On Vanessa's social media, carefully produced photos showed seemingly spontaneous moments. Raphael reading to Sophia, family meals, strolls in the garden. Hashtags like "family is everything" and "stepmom love" accompanied the posts that received thousands of likes and complimentary comments. The reality, however, was quite different. Raphael rarely left Sophia alone with Vanessa. He had reorganized his professional schedule to work more from home, delegated trips to trusted executives, and when he needed to go to the office, he took his daughter with him, improvising a space for her in the empty meeting room. Mrs. Clara had returned, officially as a child development consultant for Raphael's company's social projects. In practice, she had returned to being Sophia's caregiver, a protective presence when her father couldn't be there. That Thursday morning, Raphael was in his office at the mansion, meeting with Paul Vernon, the private investigator recommended by Clarissa, a middle-aged man with a discreet appearance and an impressive track record of solving cases for high-profile figures. "I've gathered some interesting information about Miss Alcott," Paul informed, opening a folder on the table. Before she was Vanessa Alcott, she was Vanessa Brooks. She changed her name after her first marriage. "First marriage?" Raphael frowned. "She told me she had never been married before." Paul nodded. "Exactly. I found records of 2 previous marriages. The first to a real estate businessman from Philadelphia, Anthony Brooks, 15 years her senior. The marriage lasted 3 years and ended with a substantial divorce settlement. The second was to a music producer from Miami, Charles Dalton, and lasted only 1 year. Any pattern in these relationships? Yes. In both cases, she approached successful men, usually widowers or divorced men with children. In Mr. Brooks's case, he had a 10-year-old daughter for whom he obtained shared custody in the divorce. Curiously, during his marriage to Vanessa, the girl was sent to a boarding school in Switzerland. So after the separation, she returned to live with her father full-time. Raphael felt a chill. And the second marriage, Mr. Dalton had a teenage son. There were some situations during the marriage. The boy was sent to live with his maternal grandmother. After the divorce, Vanessa received a significant sum and rights to some properties. Situations, Raphael pressed. Paul hesitated. Medical records indicate that the boy was treated for anxiety and depression during the period he lived with his father and Vanessa. There's a police report on file but later withdrawn, mentioning hostile family environment. Raphael pressed his temples. A pattern was emerging, and it was exactly what he feared. There's more, Paul continued. Before her career as an influencer, Vanessa worked briefly for a modeling agency that went bankrupt. Then she reappeared as an image consultant. Her leap to fame occurred shortly after her marriage to Mr. Dalton, when she started posting about modern motherhood and blended relationships. She quickly gained followers, and by the time you met, she was already an established name in the digital world. Raphael remembered the charity event where he met Vanessa 3 years earlier. She had presented herself as an activist dedicated to children's causes, enchanting him with her apparent sincerity and the genuine interest she showed in Sophia. Then 4 years old. Any information about her current contacts? Close people? Paul slid some photos across the table. She maintains a close circle of other influencers, but her true confidant seems to be this woman, Amanda Turner, a public relations specialist in crisis management for celebrities. In recent days, they've been meeting frequently. Crisis management, Raphael raised an eyebrow. Yes, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Since you returned and changed your routine, Vanessa seems to be preparing for something. Paul paused significantly. She hired a private security agency to monitor your devices. Fortunately, I managed to detect this before they found the software I installed on the house's security cameras. At Raphael's request, Paul had discreetly implemented a parallel monitoring system, legal and authorized by the homeowner, but invisible to Vanessa. The recordings, Raphael began, are disturbing, Paul concluded. In moments when you're not present, her behavior with Sophia changes drastically. I have audio recordings of her calling your daughter an annoyance, a mistake, and other terms I prefer not to repeat. There are records of her hiding toys, restricting access to food as a form of punishment, and tearing up drawings Sophia made for you. Raphael felt his blood boil. I want to see everything. Are you sure? It's not easy to watch. I need to know exactly what my daughter is facing. Over the next hour, Raphael watched video compilations and listened to audio recordings that confirmed his worst fears. Vanessa maintained a perfect facade when he was around, but transformed when the door closed. One particular recording left him stunned. Vanessa on the phone with Amanda Turner, discussing strategies to accelerate the divorce process, obtain custody of Sophia, and secure a significant portion of RM Tech's assets. He's a workaholic and has abandoned the girl before, Vanessa said on the call. It won't be difficult to build a case of paternal neglect. Besides, who will the court prefer to care for a 7-year-old girl? An always absent father or a dedicated mother with a public platform for children's advocacy? When the recording ended, Raphael remained silent for several minutes. This explains the documents Clara saw her photographing, he finally murmured. She's preparing for a strategic divorce. Paul nodded. All these records will be crucial for your case. Mr. Maxwell is already aware and... The conversation was interrupted by a notification on Raphael's phone, a headline from the most popular celebrity news portal in the US. Influencer Vanessa Alcott opens up about stepmother challenges. It's not always a fairy tale. Raphael opened the article and found an exclusive interview where Vanessa, with tears in her eyes, spoke about how being a stepmother is loving, unconditionally even when you don't receive the same love back, and how it's hard to compete with the idealized image of the deceased mother. The report presented Vanessa as a courageous woman facing prejudice against stepmothers, while trying to build a harmonious family despite the challenges of a frequently absent husband. She's started, Paul said, looking over Raphael's shoulder. She's building a public narrative. How convenient, just as we gather evidence against her, Raphael replied bitterly. We have to act faster. That night, during dinner, Vanessa was particularly attentive to Sophia, who responded with monosyllables and nervous glances at her father. I was thinking, Vanessa said between smiles, we could spend the weekend at the beach house, just the three of us. It would be great for us to reconnect as a family. What do you think, Sophia? The girl paled, but before she could answer, Raphael intervened. Unfortunately, that won't be possible. I've already promised Sophia I'd take her to visit her grandparents in Boston. It was an improvised lie, but necessary. Perhaps another weekend. Vanessa's smile flickered for a fraction of a second. What a shame. Have your parents seen Sophia's new look yet? Her short hair looks so charming, doesn't it? Sophia lowered her eyes to her plate, her hand instinctively touching her head where her hair was starting to grow back. My parents will love Sophia no matter what, Raphael replied, maintaining his composure. After all, what matters isn't appearance, but how we treat the people we love, isn't that right? Vanessa's eyes hardened, though her smile remained. Of course, darling. That's why I try so hard to be a good mother to Sophia, even when you're away. I'm not your daughter, Sophia murmured, so softly it was almost unheard. What did you say, dear? Vanessa leaned forward, her voice suddenly razor-sharp. Sophia is tired, Raphael intervened, standing up. I'll put her to bed. In Sophia's room, as he helped her into her pajamas, Raphael noticed how relieved his daughter seemed to be away from Vanessa. Daddy, she whispered as he tucked her in. I saw Aunt Vanessa on TV today talking about me. Raphael froze. You saw the interview? Sophia nodded. Mrs. Clara was watching it on the tablet. Aunt Vanessa said she loves me, but it's not true. Why does she lie? How to explain emotional manipulation and false narratives to a 7-year-old? Raphael sat on the edge of the bed, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes, Sophia, people show a different version of themselves to the world, like a mask. The important thing is that you know the truth, and I know it too. Are you going to send me away like the other children? Sophia's eyes were wide with fear. Raphael felt a tightening in his chest. She knew more than he imagined. Never, Sophia. I will never send you away or let them take you from me. I promise. Outside the room, soft footsteps moved away down the hallway. Vanessa had been listening. Later, when Sophia finally fell asleep, Raphael received a message from Theodore. Documentation ready. Preliminary hearing scheduled for next week. Brace yourself, she's going to fight. In his office, alone with his thoughts, Raphael reviewed the gathered evidence, testimonies, recordings, Sophia's preliminary psychological evaluation, school records showing behavioral changes. The battle had just begun, but now he was at least armed with the truth. His phone vibrated. An email from an unknown sender, Marcus Reed, an investigative reporter from the respected New York Times newspaper. Mr. Morrison, I am investigating a series of cases involving public figures who use their influence to cover up questionable behavior. I would like to speak with you about Vanessa Alcott, whose name has come up in my investigation, related to suspicious patterns in her previous marriages. I can assure discretion. Please contact me if you are interested in contributing. Raphael stared at the message for long minutes. An unexpected ally or a trap? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear. The war for the narrative and for Sophia's safety was officially declared. The family court of Manhattan Civil Court, in downtown New York City, was surprisingly quiet on that rainy Monday. Raphael arrived an hour before the scheduled time, accompanied by Theodore Maxwell and a folder full of documents. Sophia was at school, protected by discreet security guards hired by Paul, the investigator. Does Vanessa already know about the hearing? Raphael asked as they waited in the anteroom. She received official notification on Friday, Theodore replied. From what I hear, she's already hired Deborah Carrington. Raphael raised his eyebrows. Deborah was known as the celebrity lawyer, specializing in multi-million-dollar divorces and high-profile custody battles. Her name frequently appeared in sensational headlines. Does that mean she's going to turn this into a media circus? Theodore shook his head. Not necessarily. For now, it's just a preliminary hearing for protective orders. Judge Helen Vance is known for her discretion and for prioritizing the welfare of children above all other considerations. A movement at the door caught both their attention. Vanessa entered, accompanied not only by Deborah Carrington, but also by Amanda Turner, her image consultant. The contrast between the two women was notable. While Deborah wore an impeccable pantsuit and a severe expression, Vanessa had opted for a more discreet and maternal look, hair pulled back in a simple bun, light makeup, a conservative navy blue dress. Their gazes met for an instant. Vanessa managed a sad smile, the kind of expression that would certainly move her followers. Raphael remained impassive. "Don't react to provocations," Theodore whispered. "She wants to create a narrative of hostility." The hearing room door opened, and the judge's assistant called those present. The room was smaller than Raphael imagined, with a central table where Judge Helen Vance, a middle-aged black woman with a keen gaze, was already waiting. "This is a preliminary hearing to assess the need for protective orders in favor of the minor Sophia Morrison, 7 years old," the judge began after the initial formalities. "Mr. Morrison, you are the petitioner for these orders. I want to hear your allegations directly." Encouraged by the judge, Raphael presented his account. He kept his voice firm as he described what he found upon returning from his trip: Sophia's confessions, the behavioral changes, the discovery of the recordings, and the collected testimonies. Theodore complimented by presenting the documentation, including preliminary reports from the psychologist who had evaluated Sophia and the social worker's report from visiting the residence. Throughout, Vanessa kept her eyes down, occasionally wiping discreet tears with a tissue. When it was her turn to speak, she looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, I am shocked by these accusations," she began, her voice choked. "I have always treated Sophia as my own daughter. The hair? It was an unfortunate accident. Sophia asked for a modern cut, but she moved during the process and the result was uneven. I then decided to trim it so it would grow evenly." Deborah Carrington quickly took over, presenting a counterpoint to each accusation. "The recordings were obtained without my client's consent and were edited to appear incriminating," she argued. "As for the testimonies, including that of former employee Clara Oliver, they are from people with an interest in favoring Mr. Morrison, who is a powerful employer." The lawyer then presented her own documentation, social media posts showing Vanessa and Sophia in seemingly happy moments, testimonies from influencer friends about Vanessa's maternal love, and even a letter of recommendation from a children's NGO with which she collaborated. "Your Honor," Deborah continued, "what we see here is a classic attempt at parental alienation by the father, who has always been absent due to professional demands. My client has been Sophia's true caregiver, while Mr. Morrison spends weeks traveling on business. Now that Vanessa has expressed concern about this abandonment, he tries to separate her from the child with unfounded accusations." Judge Helen listened carefully to both sides, making occasional notes. When the arguments ended, she adjusted her glasses and looked directly at Vanessa. "Ms. Alcott, you claim that the recordings presented by the petitioner were edited. However, our experts have preliminarily analyzed the material and found no signs of editing or manipulation. How do you explain the clearly audible insults and threats in the recordings?" Vanessa paled slightly. "Your Honor, I may have lost my patience at times. Raising a child is not easy, especially when you are alone most of the time. Does losing patience justify calling a child an annoyance or threatening to send her to boarding school against her father's wishes?" They were moments of frustration, words spoken without thinking. "And did you also not think when you discussed strategies to obtain custody of Sophia as a way to access Mr. Morrison's assets? Because we also have that recording." The silence in the room was absolute. Deborah Carrington urgently murmured something in Vanessa's ear, who seemed to have lost her carefully constructed composure. The judge flipped through the reports in front of her. The social worker's report indicates that Sophia shows clear signs of post-traumatic stress, including fear of abandonment, insecurity, recurring nightmares, and withdrawn behavior. The child psychologist reports that, in a playful session, Sophia demonstrated severe anxiety in the presence of authoritarian female figures and expressed terror at the thought of being alone with her stepmother. Helen Vance closed the folder and looked alternately at Raphael and Vanessa. At this preliminary stage, my obligation is to ensure the safety and well-being of the child. The evidence presented, including recordings, testimonies, and professional reports, indicates a pattern of psychological mistreatment that cannot be ignored. The judge paused significantly. Therefore, I determined the following protective orders. Exclusive temporary custody granted to Mr. Raphael Morrison. Prohibition of contact by Ms. Vanessa Alcott with the minor Sophia without judicial supervision. Maintenance of the family residence in possession of Mr. Morrison and the child. Immediate removal of Ms. Alcott from the shared residence. Vanessa let out a muffled exclamation. Deborah immediately began protesting, but the judge continued. Furthermore, I order continuous psychological counseling for Sophia. Supervised visits by a court-appointed professional if requested in the future, and a complete psychosocial evaluation of both parties. The decision on permanent custody will be made after the psychosocial evaluation is completed and considering the best interest of the child. Striking the gavel, the judge concluded the hearing. The protective orders take effect immediately. Ms. Alcott will have 24 hours to remove personal belongings from the residence, accompanied by a court officer. Outside the room, Vanessa seemed stunned. Amanda Turner immediately surrounded her, whispering strategies, while Deborah Carrington announced they would appeal the decision. Raphael observed the scene from a distance, feeling not triumph but profound relief. It's just the first step, Theodore warned, but an important step. Sophia is legally protected now. On the way to school, Raphael received a text message from Paul. Stay alert. Vanessa left the courthouse directly for a meeting with Amanda Turner and 2 executives from Impact Agency, specializing in reputation crises. The battle for public opinion is just beginning. Raphael took a deep breath. The court decision was vital, but he knew he would still face the court of public opinion. Vanessa had millions of followers, advertising contracts that depended on her image as an exemplary stepmother, and media contacts. She would certainly use all these resources. Upon arriving at school, he found Sophia in the courtyard, waiting with her teacher. The girl's face lit up when she saw him. Daddy, did you come to pick me up early? Yes, Princess. I thought we could spend the afternoon together. What do you think? Sophia smiled, picking up her backpack. Is Aunt Vanessa coming too? No, Sophia. For a while it will just be the 2 of us at home. Teacher Anna Paulson approached. Mr. Morrison, can I speak with you quickly? While Sophia waited a few steps away, Anna Paulson spoke in a low voice. I wanted you to know that today, for the first time in weeks, Sophia participated in music class. She even sang a little. It was a big step forward. Raphael nodded, emotional. Thank you for letting me know. We are going through changes at home. I believe they will be for the better. On the way home, Sophia seemed lighter, talking about class and friends with an animation Raphael hadn't seen in a long time. Daddy, she asked suddenly, is Aunt Vanessa not living with us anymore? Raphael chose his words carefully. No, Sophia. Aunt Vanessa will be living somewhere else now. Forever? For now, yes. Do you feel sad about that? Sophia was silent for a moment, then answered softly, No, I'm happier when it's just you and me. And Mrs. Clara. Upon arriving home, they found Nancy, the housekeeper, supervising 2 court officers, while Vanessa removed personal belongings. The atmosphere was tense. Vanessa, now impeccably dressed in designer clothes and perfect makeup, seemed filmed by invisible cameras, every movement calculated to convey wounded dignity. Upon seeing Sophia, her face transformed into a mask of tenderness. My love, come give Mommy a hug. Sophia hid behind Raphael, clinging to his leg. Vanessa, Raphael said firmly, please respect the court order. No unsupervised contact. Do you see what you're doing? She hissed, low enough for only Raphael to hear. So you're alienating my daughter against me. She is not your daughter, Raphael replied in the same tone, and you are being filmed by the court officers. I suggest you maintain your composure. Vanessa shot him one last furious look before turning her attention back to the officers, instantly transforming again into the hurt and misunderstood figure. When they finally left, Sophia asked if they could redecorate her room. "I want different colors," she explained, "and plants. Lots of plants." "Of course," Raphael agreed, understanding his daughter's desire to transform the space where she had experienced so much fear. "We're going to make this place truly our home now." That night, while Sophia slept peacefully for the first time in months, Raphael received an email from the journalist Marcus Reed. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for your response. As I mentioned, I am investigating a pattern of behavior involving public figures. Recently, I received information about Ms. Alcott's previous marriages and her strategies for approaching wealthy families. I would like to schedule a conversation. I do not intend to exploit your personal situation or expose your daughter in any way. My interest is to reveal a predatory pattern that has affected multiple families." Raphael hesitated. Exposing Vanessa publicly could protect other families, but it also risked dragging Sophia into a media scandal. On the other hand, with millions of followers, Vanessa would certainly use her platform to build a narrative favorable to herself. He decided. He replied, scheduling a private meeting for the next day. The legal battle had taken a favorable first step, but the war for truth was just beginning. And this time it would not only be for Sophia's protection, but also to prevent Vanessa from making other victims in the future. Sophia's bedroom walls, once a cold beige chosen by Vanessa, now displayed a soft gradient that went from light blue to lilac, like a dawn sky. Small golden stars, carefully applied by Raphael and Mrs. Clara, sparkled on the ceiling. On the wide windowsill, 3 succulent pots lined up in the sun, plants chosen by Sophia herself because they were strong, even when no one takes good care of them, as she had explained at the flower shop. 8 months had passed since the preliminary hearing and the protective orders. A month of gradual transformations, not only in the physical environment of the house, but in everyone's routine and emotional well-being. Raphael watched Sophia sitting at her new colorful desk, concentrating on the drawing she was making. The lines were firmer now, the colors more vibrant. There were no more dark or frightening figures in her drawings, although the psychologist Dr. Teresa Miller had explained that the recovery process would not be linear. "May I see what you're drawing?" Raphael asked, approaching. Sophia proudly held up the paper. It was a vibrant garden with flowers of all colors, a house in the background, and 2 figures holding hands, clearly her and her father. "It's our garden," she explained, "but with more flowers. Can we plant more this weekend?" "Of course," Raphael replied, sitting beside her. "Which ones do you want to plant?" "Sunflowers. Teacher Anna Paulson said they always turn towards the sun." Raphael smiled, noting the unintentional symbolism. Sophia, like the sunflowers, was turning towards the light after a period of shadows. The household routine had been completely reorganized. Raphael divided his schedule between in-person and remote work, ensuring he was home during the most important hours: breakfast with Sophia, picking her up from school, dinner together, bath time and bedtime reading. For periods when he needed to be away, Mrs. Clara was always present, now officially rehired as a caregiver with guaranteed labor rights. In the first few weeks, Sophia still woke up startled some nights, calling for her father with an anguished voice. Raphael would rush to her room, sit by her side, and repeat the same comforting words. "I'm here. You're safe. No one will hurt you." Gradually, the nightmares lessened. Dr. Teresa came twice a week for child therapy sessions. Initially, Sophia was reluctant, but the psychologist's gentle and playful approach soon won her trust. Through games, drawings, and stories, Sophia began to process her traumatic experiences and develop tools to cope with fear and anxiety. "The monster in her drawings is getting smaller," Teresa had explained to Raphael the previous week. "It's a positive sign. She's developing a sense of control over her fears." That Saturday morning, Raphael was making pancakes in the kitchen, a newly established weekend tradition, when he received a call from Theodore Maxwell. "Good news," the lawyer announced without preamble. Vanessa's appeal attempt was denied. The judge upheld all protective orders until the final hearing. Raphael felt a knot in his stomach loosen. Although the initial measures had removed Vanessa, Her legal team had been aggressively trying to reverse the decision, claiming parental alienation and a hasty decision based on manipulated evidence. What about the request for supervised visits? Also denied for now. Dr. Teresa submitted a detailed report recommending against any contact at this time, citing the acute stress that the mere mention of Vanessa's name still causes Sophia. It was true. On the few occasions Vanessa was mentioned, even accidentally, Sophia became visibly tense, her small body stiffening as if preparing for a blow. "How are things there?" Theodore asked. "Better. Sophia is more relaxed, more a child, you know." She started singing around the house again, telling crazy stories, laughing that uncontrolled laugh of hers. And school. Her teacher says she's participating more. She's reconnected with her classmates. She still has moments of withdrawal, but they are increasingly less frequent. And you, Raphael, how are you coping with all this? Raphael hesitated. Few people asked how he was feeling. "I'm learning to be a more present father, to balance work and family, to recognize signs I previously missed." He paused. "And dealing with the guilt, to be honest." "Guilt? Vertunter for not noticing sooner, for allowing someone like Vanessa into our lives, for being absent when Sophia needed me most." "Raphael," Theodore's voice was gentle but firm, "you acted as soon as you found out. Many in your position would have denied it, hesitated, tried to maintain appearances. You put your daughter first immediately." The conversation was interrupted by Sophia, who ran into the kitchen. "Daddy, I'm hungry." "Are the pancakes ready?" "Almost, Princess. Can you set the table?" After hanging up, Raphael watched Sophia carefully setting the table. There was something different about her today, a quiet confidence she hadn't shown in a long time. After breakfast, Raphael suggested, "How about we visit the bookstore today? We can choose new books for our bedtime stories." Sophia's face lit up. The culture bookstore at the plaza shops had become a refuge for both of them. Unlike more bustling malls where they risked encountering Vanessa's friends, the plaza shops offered a more discreet environment for their outings. At the bookstore, Sophia ran to the children's section, while Raphael watched from a distance, giving her the space to explore that she so valued. That's when he noticed a group of women looking in their direction and whispering. One of them discreetly pointed her phone, as if comparing his image with something on the screen. The media exposure of the case had been less than Raphael feared, thanks to the family court's discretion and Theodore's measures to keep the proceedings confidential. However, Vanessa had begun a subtle campaign on social media, posting ambiguous messages about fighting for family and facing injustices, always with strategic hashtags like "real stepmoms" and "fighting for my child." Her millions of followers speculated in the comments, many blindly supporting her without knowing the facts. Some online tabloids had published biased articles, insinuating that the powerful entrepreneur was using his influence to separate the dedicated stepmother from the child. Raphael approached Sophia, placing himself protectively between her and the curious women. The girl enthusiastically held up a book. "Daddy, look. It's about a girl who creates a magic garden. Looks amazing. Shall we get it?" On the way to the checkout, Raphael's phone vibrated. It was a message from Marcus Reed, the investigative journalist he had been talking to in recent weeks. "Material ready. Publication in Sunday's edition. Prepared for the repercussions?" Raphael replied with a simple yes. After much deliberation, he had decided to share with Marcus only verifiable information about Vanessa's history, keeping Sophia completely out of the report. The focus would be on Vanessa's pattern of behavior over the years, her previous marriages, and the strategies she used to approach wealthy families. That afternoon, while Sophia had painting lessons, a newly discovered activity she adored, Raphael met with Letitia Rhodes, the new interim CEO of RM Tech. "Investors are nervous," admitted Letitia. "Their competent executive Raphael had brought from a multinational 2 years earlier. Your ex's smear campaign is affecting market confidence." It was true. RM Tech's shares had fallen 7% since the first rumors about the lawsuit emerged. Vanessa and her team were spreading the narrative that Raphael was an obsessed workaholic who neglected his family and was now trying to destroy the reputation of an innocent woman who dared to question his priorities. "The negative publicity will get worse before it gets better," Raphael replied. "But I have a plan." The plan was simple: selective transparency. Raphael had instructed Letitia to communicate to key investors that he was facing a delicate family situation that required his attention, but that the company remained solid. Simultaneously, he had appointed a respected executive as a temporary spokesperson, removing himself from the front lines of corporate communications to protect both the company and Sophia. "And how's the little one?" Letitia asked, softening her tone. She knew Sophia from company events and had always shown genuine affection for the girl. "Getting better every day. We still have a long way to go, but she's incredibly resilient. Children usually are, and when they have adults who truly care by their side, they can overcome things we can't even imagine." Back at the mansion, Raphael was greeted by a radiant Sophia, her hands stained with paint. "Daddy, look what I painted today." She showed a colorful canvas depicting what looked like a phoenix, a bird in flames, but with vibrant and cheerful colors, not frightening at all. "It's beautiful, Sophia. Where did you learn about the phoenix?" Teacher Felicity told the story. "It's a bird that is reborn from ashes. Like us, right, Daddy? We are also being reborn." Raphael felt a lump in his throat. "Yes, Princess. Exactly like us." That night, after putting Sophia to bed, Raphael sat in his office and opened the email he had received from Paul Vernon. The investigator had located a former personal assistant of Vanessa, Julia Newman, who had worked for her during her second marriage and was willing to speak. She kept spreadsheets, Julia reported in the written testimony. She detailed the assets of each target, as she called them. She had a step-by-step strategy for each relationship: approach, conquest, marriage, isolation of the partner from their support network, and finally the harvest, the lucrative divorce. "I have emails and documents to prove it." Raphael leaned back in his chair, exhausted. Marcus's report, combined with this new testimony, would certainly unleash a storm. But it could also be what finally ended Vanessa's power over their lives. A soft rustle roused him from his thoughts. Sophia was at the door, hugging her pillow. "I couldn't sleep," she murmured. "Can I stay here with you for a little bit?" "Of course, Princess." She settled on the office sofa, watching her father with curious eyes. "What are you thinking about, Daddy? You look worried." Raphael smiled, closing his laptop. "Just thinking about how much I love you and how proud I am of the strong and courageous girl you are." "I'm not that strong," she replied, lowering her eyes. "I still get scared sometimes." "You know, Sophia, being strong doesn't mean not being afraid. It means feeling fear and still moving forward anyway. And that's exactly what you've been doing." The girl seemed to ponder this, nodding slowly. "Dr. Teresa said my monsters are getting smaller," she commented, referring to the drawings she made in therapy sessions. "That's true. Every day they shrink a little more. Will they disappear completely one day?" Raphael approached, sitting beside her. "Maybe they won't disappear completely, Princess. Sometimes fears stay with us, just very small, stored in a little box. The important thing is that they don't stop us from living and being happy." Sophia leaned her head on her father's shoulder. "I like our life now. It's different, but it's good." "I like it too, Sophia. Very much." As his daughter fell asleep in his arms, Raphael contemplated the changes of the past few weeks. The mansion, once cold and impersonal like a perfect backdrop for Vanessa's produced photos, now had life. Sophia's drawings on the walls, books scattered around, plants growing, music playing. Meals were no longer tense, silent sessions, but moments of conversation and laughter. Raphael himself had changed. The workaholic who delegated his daughter's upbringing while building an empire now understood that no professional success would compensate for the moments lost with Sophia. He continued to lead RMTech, but with clearer priorities and well-defined boundaries. The next day, Marcus's report would be published. A new phase of the battle would begin. But that night, with Sophia peacefully asleep in his arms, Raphael allowed himself a moment of pure gratitude for the chance to rebuild their lives brick by brick, creating something more authentic and valuable than everything they had lost. The hidden face of influence. How Vanessa Alcott built an empire of appearances. The headline of the New York Times main section cover story that Sunday was blunt. Below, a photo montage showed Vanessa in 3 distinct phases: as an aspiring model in her early years in New York City, as a businesswoman's wife at charity events, And finally, as the influencer with millions of followers, always with carefully crafted captions about modern motherhood and blended family, Raphael observed the printed article with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Marcus Reed had done a meticulous job. The report traced Vanessa's trajectory from her arrival in New York City, from a small town in upstate New York, to her transformation into one of the country's biggest digital influencers. With testimonies from people who knew her over the years, including former colleagues, former employees, and anonymous sources from her previous circles, the text revealed a consistent pattern of calculated behavior. As agreed, Sophia's name did not appear at any point. Vanessa's current situation was mentioned only as a third marriage that recently ended with serious accusations and protective judicial measures. The main focus was on her previous relationships, the strategies of approach, and how she had built a public image that dramatically contrasted with her private behavior. Particularly devastating was the testimony of her first husband's daughter, now a young adult, who for the first time recounted the treatment she had received from her stepmother, the gradual isolation from her father, the constant humiliations, the way Vanessa had convinced her she would be happier studying abroad, away from her family. Raphael put the newspaper aside when he heard Sophia coming down the stairs. The girl was still in her pajamas, her hair, now growing in short curls, disheveled from sleep. "Good morning, Princess. Did you sleep well?" "Yes," she replied, excited. "Can I have hot chocolate for breakfast?" "Of course you can. Today is a special day." "Why? Is it a holiday?" Raphael smiled. "Not exactly, but I think today many things will change for the better." As they prepared breakfast together, a new Sunday tradition, Raphael's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages from friends, colleagues, and even strangers commenting on the report. Theodore Maxwell sent a simple, "Excellent strategy. The battle of public opinion has just turned in our favor." At 10 in the morning, Paul Vernon called. "Raphael, following social media as you asked. The repercussion is massive. Vanessa's followers are in shock, many questioning her authenticity. Several brands that sponsored her have already issued statements pausing partnerships for situation assessment. And Vanessa? Any reaction? Not yet. According to my sources, she's been locked in her apartment with her assistant Amanda Turner since the digital edition of the newspaper went online last night, probably planning her counterattack." Raphael nodded, though Paul couldn't see him. "Keep monitoring. Any suspicious movement, let me know immediately." Vanessa's reaction came around noon in the form of a dramatic video on her social media. With red eyes from crying, deliberately imperfect makeup, and a choked voice, she spoke directly to the camera. "My dear followers, my virtual family, you who have always been with me. I am going through the most difficult moment of my life. An orchestrated smear campaign, motivated by a turbulent divorce and financial interests, is trying to destroy everything I have built. The accusations are false, distorted, taken out of context. I only ask that you, who know me through my daily transparency, do not believe sensationalist tabloids." The strategy was clear. Present herself as a victim of a conspiracy, appealing to the emotional connection with her followers. Raphael watched the video with Theodore Maxwell, who had arrived to discuss the next steps. "Predictable," the lawyer commented, "but it won't work like before. Marcus's report is very well founded, with multiple sources. And there's more. I just learned that the former assistant, Julia Newman, gave an exclusive interview to 60 Minutes tonight with compromising documents. Indeed, at 8 in the evening, after putting Sophia to bed, Raphael watched the interview on the highest-rated television program in the US. Julia, a woman in her 30s with a determined expression, showed emails, notes, and even audio recordings that documented Vanessa's methodology for approaching wealthy men with small children. Even more impactful were the detailed spreadsheets where Vanessa calculated the estimated assets of each target and projected how much she could obtain in divorce settlements. In Raphael's case, the predicted value was astronomical, including not only personal properties and investments, but also a significant percentage of RM Tech's shares. She called it her retirement plan, Julia explained in the interview. She said she wouldn't have to work for the rest of her life after completing this operation. The next morning, the repercussion on social media was overwhelming. The term Vanessa Alcott topped trending topics, with thousands of former followers expressing outrage at having been deceived for so long. Several influencers who once called themselves Vanessa's best friends now published statements distancing themselves from her. Raphael was in his office, on a video conference with RMTech's top executives, when Clarissa, his secretary, rushed in. "Raphael, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you need to see this." A statement just arrived from the district attorney's office. The statement informed that, following recent revelations and multiple complaints received, the New York District Attorney's Office was opening a formal investigation against Vanessa Alcott for possible crimes of swindling, fraud, tax evasion, and even money laundering through her digital marketing companies. "This completely changes the landscape," commented Theodore Maxwell, whom Raphael had immediately consulted. "The battle now is no longer just for Sophia's custody, but a criminal matter. Vanessa will be too busy trying to stay out of prison to continue fighting for custody." Prison? Raphael hadn't considered that possibility. If proven, the accusations can indeed result in imprisonment, especially if the repetitive pattern of behavior is confirmed. News of the criminal investigation exploded in the media. Reporters began to gather at the mansion gates, seeking statements from Raphael. Following Theodore's guidance, he remained silent, issuing only an official statement through his press office. "I am focused on my daughter's well-being and recovery, our absolute priority at this moment. I trust the authorities to conduct the necessary investigations and clarify all facts." Sophia, protected at school by discreet security guards, remained oblivious to the media storm. Raphael made a point of shielding her from any exposure, maintaining established routines and creating an environment of normalcy amidst the external chaos. On Wednesday of that week, Judge Helen Vance convened an extraordinary hearing. Raphael attended, accompanied by Theodore, expecting to find Vanessa and her lawyer. To his surprise, only Deborah Carrington was present. "Where is Miss Alcott?" the judge questioned. "Your Honor," Deborah began, visibly embarrassed, "my client is unavailable at the moment. I requested a postponement of this hearing, but..." "Unavailable?" The judge raised her eyebrows. "Could you be more specific, Counselor?" After hesitating, Deborah admitted, "Miss Alcott attempted to leave the country last night, but was prevented by Customs and Border Protection at JFK Airport. Her passport was seized by order of the District Attorney's Office. She is now at her residence under monitoring." Judge Helen nodded gravely. "I understand. This attempted flight will certainly be considered in the final custody decision. In any case, the purpose of this hearing is to inform you that, in light of new developments, I am moving up the final hearing to next week. The psychosocial reports are already complete, and I see no reason to prolong the situation of uncertainty for the minor Sophia." The news was met with relief by Raphael. The faster he could legally close this chapter, the sooner Sophia could move on without Vanessa's shadow hanging over her. Leaving the courthouse, Raphael was intercepted by Marcus Reed. "Mr. Morrison, a minute, please." The journalist looked tired, but satisfied. "I wanted to thank you personally. Your courage in sharing information, even while protecting your daughter, helped unmask a scheme that affected many families." "I thank you for the thorough investigation," Raphael replied. "Do you have any new information?" "Several, actually. After the publication, I received testimonies from at least 5 other families who had similar experiences with Miss Alcott under different names. We are preparing a series of reports. And there's more. The IRS is investigating her companies for possible systematic tax fraud." Raphael nodded, processing the information. "The important thing is that this ends. That other children don't go through what Sophia went through." Back at the mansion, he found Sophia playing in the garden with Mrs. Clara. The girl had created a plant hospital, treating with water and special care some seedlings that seemed more fragile. "This one was sad, but now it's getting happy again," Sophia explained seriously, showing a small begonia that was starting to bloom. Raphael observed the scene, moved by the unintentional metaphor. Like the begonia, Sophia was also blooming again after a difficult period. That night after dinner, the phone rang. It was Vanessa, using an unknown number to bypass the call block Raphael had implemented. "Raphael, we need to talk." Her voice sounded desperate, unlike her previous performative confidence. "All of this is a misunderstanding. We can resolve it between us without involving the press. The district attorney's office. There's nothing for us to talk about." "Vanessa," he replied, keeping his voice low so Sophia, who was drawing in the next room, wouldn't hear him. "Any communication must be made through the lawyers. Please just listen to me. I can give up everything, custody, assets. I just need you to ask the district attorney's office to reconsider the investigation." "I can't go to prison, Raphael. My life would be destroyed. Your concern should have been for Sophia's well-being, not the consequences of your actions," he replied, ending the call. Immediately, he communicated the contact to Theodore and Paul, who recommended reinforcing security measures. "Desperate people do desperate things," Paul warned. The week passed quickly, with Raphael dividing his time between preparations for the final hearing, managing the crisis at the company, which was already beginning to stabilize after public support from key investors, and, most importantly, his routine with Sophia. The day before the hearing, while tidying his daughter's room, Raphael found something that took his breath away. Hidden at the bottom of a box of old toys was Mr. Caramel, the teddy bear Sophia had loved so much, and that Vanessa had supposedly thrown away. The toy was neglected, with a tear in the side seam and suspicious stains, as if it had been deliberately damaged and then hidden. Raphael took the teddy bear to his room, deciding to fix it before returning it to Sophia. He spent hours carefully stitching the torn fabric, washing the stains with delicate products, patiently drying it with a hairdryer on the gentlest setting. The next morning, before they left for school, Raphael called Sophia to his office. "Princess, I found someone who was missing you." Sophia's eyes widened when she saw Mr. Caramel, clean and mended, sitting on the table. For a moment she was paralyzed, as if she couldn't believe what she saw. Then, with a cry of joy, she ran to hug the teddy bear, pressing him tightly against her chest. "Mr. Caramel, you're back!" She looked at her father, her eyes shining with tears. "You found him, Daddy. Where was he?" "Hidden. But now he's back to stay with you forever." Sophia hugged her father with one arm, keeping the bear firmly secured with the other. "Thank you, Daddy. I missed him so much. He was Mommy's last gift." At that moment, seeing the genuine joy on his daughter's face, Raphael knew that, regardless of the outcome of the next day's hearing, they had won the real battle. Sophia was recovering not only lost objects, but her safety, her joy, and her childhood. 2 years had passed since that early morning when Raphael returned from his trip and found Sophia trembling in bed, her hair shaved and her spirit wounded. 2 years of patient rebuilding, of small and large triumphs, of scars that had transformed into marks of wisdom. On that sunny Saturday morning, the house on the Upper East Side was bustling. Sophia, now 9 years old, ran back and forth, overseeing the preparations for her birthday party, the first big celebration since the traumatic events that had changed their lives. "Daddy, have the flowers arrived yet? And the biodegradable balloons? Mrs. Clara said the chocolate truffles are almost ready, but we still need to set up the dessert table." Raphael watched, amused, his daughter's enthusiasm. Sophia had planned every detail of the party with surprising zeal for her age. Even more impressive was the concept she herself had created. Instead of conventional gifts, she had asked guests to bring donations for a children's shelter that Raphael supported through RM Tech. "Everything is arriving on time, Princess," he reassured her. "The balloons will be here in half an hour, the flowers are already in the fridge, and as for the dessert table," he checked his watch. "I think it's time we started organizing it, don't you?" Sophia's face lit up. "Yes, let's go." As they worked together, Raphael reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past 2 years. The final hearing on that tense day had resulted in a complete victory. Exclusive and permanent custody granted to Raphael, with Vanessa legally prohibited from any contact with Sophia. Judge Helen Vance, in announcing the decision, cited not only the evidence of psychological mistreatment, but also the predatory pattern of behavior revealed during the investigations. Vanessa had not appeared at the final hearing. She was too busy with her own legal battles. The district attorney's office had proceeded with the accusations of tax fraud and swindling, resulting in a criminal case that was still ongoing. She had lost almost all advertising contracts, most of her social media followers, and her digital influence empire had collapsed like a house of cards. The last news Raphael had, through Theodore, was that Vanessa had been sentenced to 3 years of probation with residential requirements for financial fraud, with additional lawsuits still pending. She had disappeared from the public radar, except for occasional mentions in reports about the fall of influencers. For Sophia, recovery had been gradual and non-linear, as Dr. Teresa had predicted. There were relapses, nights of nightmares, days of withdrawal, but there were also extraordinary achievements. The first time she slept through the night without startling, the day she started singing spontaneously around the house again, the moment she finally spoke openly about her experiences with the psychologist. A particularly significant milestone occurred 6 months after the final hearing when Sophia asked to cut her hair. Her curls had grown enough for a short, modern cut, but the request surprised Raphael. Cutting her hair had been one of the initial traumas. "Are you sure, Sophia?" he had asked, concerned. "You don't have to do this if you don't want to." "I want to, Daddy," she had replied with determination. "Last time I didn't have a choice, now I do. I want to decide how my hair looks." Raphael then understood the profound meaning of that request. Sophia was reclaiming autonomy over her own body, transforming a symbol of trauma into an affirmation of freedom. He took her to the best children's salon in the city, where she chose a modern pixie cut that highlighted her expressive eyes and vibrant personality. "I look beautiful, don't I?" she had asked, twirling in front of the mirror. "Beautiful and strong," Raphael had replied, emotional. The school also registered Sophia's evolution, and the withdrawn and fearful girl had given way to a participatory student with excellent grades and solid friendships. Her current teacher, Felicity, had recently commented in her report card, "Sophia demonstrates extraordinary empathy with classmates facing difficulties, offering support in a surprisingly mature way for her age." Music had entered her life as an additional therapy. She had started with keyboard lessons, discovering a natural talent that surprised everyone. In a few months, she was already composing small how melodies, including a special piece she titled "Sun After the Rain," her first complete composition, which she presented at the school recital, drawing discreet tears from Raphael in the audience. The mansion on the Upper East Side itself had completely transformed. The previously cold and impersonal environments, designed to serve as a perfect backdrop for Vanessa's produced photos, gave way to welcoming and personalized spaces. The immaculate white walls now displayed colorful paintings, many painted by Sophia herself, and photographs of happy moments. The garden, once meticulously controlled to maintain a minimalist aesthetic, exploded in colors with the flowers Sophia had insisted on planting in abundance. "Daddy, I think I need a new dress for the party," Sophia suddenly declared, interrupting Raphael's thoughts. He laughed. "But we already bought 2 dresses last week, remember? The blue one with embroidery and the green one you loved." "Yes, but—" she hesitated, biting her lower lip. "I wanted to wear something really special. It's my first big party since—" "You know." Raphael understood immediately. "Of course, Princess. How about we go to the mall after we finish here? We still have time before the guests arrive." Sophia's smile was reward enough. At the most exclusive children's clothing store in the mall, Sophia was trying on the 3rd dress, a sun-yellow model with delicate floral details, when Raphael noticed a woman observing them intently from afar. For a moment his body tensed, a reflex from the times when they needed to be constantly alert. But he soon recognized Martha Vaughan, Sophia's former pedagogical coordinator from her first school. "Mr. Morrison?" She approached, hesitant. "What a pleasant surprise to find you here. And this is Sophia? How she's grown!" Sophia, stepping out of the fitting room in the yellow dress, politely greeted the former coordinator. "We're preparing for her birthday party," Raphael explained. "Sophia turns 9 today. How wonderful. Happy birthday, Sophia." Martha looked at the girl with genuine admiration. "You are radiant." "Thank you," Sophia replied, twirling to show off the dress. "I'm going to wear this to my party. It's the color of the sun, which is my special symbol." After Martha said goodbye, Raphael asked curiously, "Your special symbol? Since when is the sun your symbol?" Sophia smiled. that smile that lit up her entire face. Since Dr. Teresa asked me to choose something that represented hope, I chose the sun because even when it rains, it always comes back later. Back at the mansion, with the new yellow dress carefully packaged, they found Mrs. Clara finishing the last preparations. The former nanny, now a permanent and beloved presence in their lives, had become much more than an employee. She was part of the family. "Sophia, some mail arrived for you," she informed, handing her an envelope with the letterhead of the Manhattan Conservatory of Music Preparatory Division. The girl eagerly tore open the envelope and let out a cry of joy. "Daddy, I got in! I'll be able to study composition at the conservatory." Raphael hugged her, proud. Sophia had taken a rigorous test for the Children's Music Talent Program, competing with children from all over the state. It was another significant achievement in her journey of recovery. The party, which would begin in a few hours, symbolized much more than a simple birthday. It was the celebration of a rebirth, of a child who, despite everything she had faced, had managed to preserve her essence of joy and kindness. Among the confirmed guests were not only school friends and family, but also people who had been fundamental in their healing journey: Dr. Teresa, teacher Anna Paulson from her old school, Theodore Maxwell and his family, even Judge Helen Vance, who had accepted the invitation as a rare gesture of personal connection after the case closed. At 4 in the afternoon, the first guests began to arrive. Sophia, dazzling in her sun-yellow dress, greeted everyone with a quiet confidence that impressed the adults present. Raphael watched from a distance, his heart overflowing with pride. "She's incredible," Theodore commented, approaching with a glass of juice in his hand. "Almost unrecognizable from that scared little girl 2 years ago. Sometimes I still find it hard to believe," Raphael confessed. "There were moments when I thought I would never see that smile again." "Children are surprisingly resilient when they have the right support," Theodore replied. "And you did everything right, Raphael." The lawyer hesitated, then added, "I heard RM Tech is about to become a unicorn company. Congratulations." It was true. After overcoming the temporary image crisis, Raphael's company had not only recovered, but prospered extraordinarily. The new positioning, with a strong emphasis on social responsibility and child protection initiatives, had attracted investors aligned with these values and opened doors for strategic international partnerships. "Thank you. But honestly, that seems secondary now," Raphael replied, looking at Sophia, who was teaching an improvised choreography to a group of children in the center of the garden. The party continued animatedly when Sophia went up to the small stage set up for musical performances. The murmur of conversations gradually subsided until an expectant silence filled the garden. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate with me today," she began, her voice clear and firm into the microphone. "This birthday is very special to me and my dad, because we are celebrating not only my age but also our journey together." Raphael felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't expected Sophia to give a speech. "2 years ago we went through difficult times," she continued, surprising everyone with her frankness. "I was afraid of everything, even my own shadow. But I learned that even when it seems like the sun will never shine again, it always comes back after the storm." Emotional glances crossed in the audience. Dr. Teresa nodded discreetly, recognizing her patient's extraordinary progress. "Instead of gifts for me, I asked for donations for children who need them more than I do. Because I learned that the best way to thank for the help I received is by helping other people." Sophia paused, searching for her father with her eyes. "And now, I want to present a song I composed especially for today. It's called Sun After the Rain, and it's dedicated to my dad, who never gave up on me, even on the darkest days." Sitting at the keyboard-positioned center stage, Sophia began to play. The melody, surprisingly sophisticated for a 9-year-old, started melancholic and introspective, progressively transforming into something luminous and hopeful, the perfect musical translation of her journey. Raphael couldn't hold back the tears that freely streamed down his face. Beside him, Mrs. Clara also cried silently. Even Theodore, always so composed, disguised his emotion. When the music ended, a moment of reverent silence preceded the explosion of applause. Sophia took a small bow, radiant, and ran to hug her father. "Did you like it, Daddy? I worked on it for months. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, Sophia, he replied, hugging her tightly. I am so proud of you, Princess. So proud. The party continued throughout the afternoon, overflowing with authentic joy. The children played freely in the garden, while the adults chatted in small groups. Raphael observed everything with a sense of fulfillment he never imagined possible during the darkest moments of the crisis. When the last guest left, it was already evening in New York City. Sophia, still energized despite the intense day, helped Mrs. Clara organize the donations received for the children's shelter. "Daddy," she called, "can we personally take these things to the shelter tomorrow? I want to meet the children." "Of course we can," Raphael replied. "That's a great idea." Later, as he helped her get ready for bed, Raphael noticed a special sparkle in his daughter's eyes. "It was the best birthday of my life," she declared, snuggling into bed with Mr. Caramel, the teddy bear that symbolized so much in her journey. "Thank you for everything, Daddy." "I thank you, Sophia. You taught me the true meaning of courage and strength." "What do you mean?" "You're the strong one, Daddy. You saved me." Raphael sat on the edge of the bed, carefully choosing his words. "Actually, Sophia, we saved each other. You taught me to be a real father, to put what truly matters first. Before I thought success was building companies, closing contracts, traveling the world. Now I know that success is seeing you happy, safe, flourishing as the incredible person you are." Sophia smiled, her eyes already heavy with sleep. "Tomorrow is our special day, right?" she murmured. Raphael nodded. They had established a tradition over the past 2 years. The day after Sophia's birthday was dedicated to what they called Gratitude Day. They visited significant places in their journey: Theodore's office, Dr. Teresa's clinic even the previous year, the courthouse where Judge Helen had granted permanent custody. At each location, they expressed gratitude to the people who had helped them and reflected on the path they had traveled. "Yes, Princess. Tomorrow is our Gratitude Day. Now sleep, you need to rest after such an emotional day." He kissed his daughter's forehead and adjusted the blanket around her. As he was about to leave the room, he heard Sophia's sleepy voice. "Daddy!" "Yes, Princess?" "You always say you're proud of me. But I'm proud of you too, for listening to me that night, for believing in me, for not giving up even when it got difficult." Raphael felt his heart ache with emotion. "I promise I will always believe in you." "Sophia, always." "I know, Daddy, that's why I'm not afraid anymore. Because I know you're here. I'll always be. Good night, my love." "Good night, Daddy." Gently closing the bedroom door, Raphael walked to the balcony overlooking the garden, still decorated with the colorful remnants of the party. The night was exceptionally starry, a rarity in polluted New York City. Reflecting on the past 2 years, Raphael realized how the promise made that first night, "I'm here now, and I'll never let anyone hurt you again," had transformed into something much deeper. It was not just a matter of physical or legal protection, but of genuine presence, attentive listening, respect for Sophia's growing autonomy, and the daily building of trust. The house that had been a backdrop for Vanessa's false narratives had become a true home. The workaholic entrepreneur who delegated his daughter's upbringing while building an empire had learned life's real priority. The traumatized girl who trembled under the covers, her hair shaved and her spirit wounded, had transformed into a confident child who composed songs about hope and organized donations for other children in need. It was an unfinished journey, certainly. There would still be difficult days ahead. Sophia would forever carry some invisible scars, and Raphael would too. But the promise that echoed between them, "I'm here," was no longer just a comfort for moments of crisis. It had become the unshakable foundation upon which they built, day after day, a life of authenticity, trust, and love. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope Raphael and Sophia's story has touched your hearts. This journey of overcoming, love, and new beginnings reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always the possibility of rebuilding and healing. For more emotional stories like this, we have prepared a special playlist that you can find by clicking the button to the right of the screen. If this narrative resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and share with anyone who might need this message of hope. Every day, we bring new stories that explore human complexity and celebrate our resilience. Share in the comments if you have lived or witnessed similar journeys of transformation. Your experience can inspire other hearts. Until our next meeting.